Welcome back to the deep dive. We're all about, getting you that core knowledge quickly, pulling the essentials from sometimes dense sources and making it, well, usable, actionable, giving you that edge, that insight, without drowning you in information. Today, we're diving into something really quite profound, I think. It's from a source book focused on Ikigai. Heard of it? It's a Japanese concept.
Right. Usually translated as a reason for being, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. But it's more than just a nice phrase, isn't it? We're looking at research specifically around Okinawa, the place famous for, well, it's a blue zone, right? So many people living past 100.
Yeah.
Centenarians. And the question is how? How does this Ikigai idea actually contribute to not just a long life, but a really fulfilling one?
Exactly. And that's where this gets interesting. Our mission today really is to kind of bridge the gap. We've got this philosophical idea, Ikigai, this search for purpose, and then we have the actual daily habits of the people in Okinawa who seem to embody it. The source material treats it almost like a lifestyle guide, both philosophical and practical.
Okay, so philosophy meets reality.
Pretty much. We'll break down the big idea first, the model, and then we'll get right into the nitty-gritty, the actual things these long-lived people do.
All right, so let's start with the framework, the concept itself. You often see it as a Venn diagram, right? 4 overlapping circles.
That's the classic visualization.
And the idea, as the source puts it, is that if you're feeling, restless, unsatisfied, chances are one of these 4 things is missing, or maybe they're just not connecting properly in your life.
That's the core idea. To really understand Ikigai, that sweet spot in the middle where they all overlap, you first need to get what each circle represents, because they're seen as the essential foundations. You can't just focus on one. So let's break them down. First, starting from the inside, maybe. Your internal drivers. Number 1 is what you love.
Okay, simple enough. Passion, enjoyment.
Purely that, intrinsic stuff, things you do just because you love the doing of it, you lose track of time. It's not about getting paid, not about being the best, just enjoyment. The source calls it the core of personal happiness, the energy source, kind of.
Got it. Love. What's next?
Second circle, what you are good at.
Skills. Competence.
Right. This moves beyond just liking something. It's about actually having the talent, the ability to do it well, reliably. This is important because, the satisfaction you get from mastering something, that's powerful. Like the source says, you might love playing the guitar, but if you're truly awful and never improve.
Yeah, that love can turn into frustration pretty quick.
Exactly. Being good at it lets you keep doing it, keeps it rewarding.
Okay, love and skills. Internal. What about the outside world?
So the third element.
What the world needs?
Impact, contribution, making a difference. Precisely. This is the outward-facing piece. It asks, is what you're doing actually relevant? Does it help anyone? Your family, your community, the wider world? This gives you that meaning beyond yourself. It grounds you. It's about contribution, maybe even altruism.
Right. And the final piece, the practical one.
Number 4, what you can be paid for.
The money part. Profession. Economic reality.
Yep. Gotta live, right. Ikigai might sound spiritual, but we need to sustain ourselves. So this pillar is about whether you can actually make a living doing something that ideally also ticks the other 3 boxes. Security, freedom.
Okay, so those are the 4. Love, good at, world needs, paid for. But here's where I, and probably a lot of listeners, get stuck, getting all 4 to line up. In today's world with specialization, the economy, it feels almost impossible. Don't you often have to trade passion for pay? Doesn't the source talk about that tension?
Oh, absolutely. It dives right into that. And that tension is why the Venn diagram is so helpful, actually. It helps visualize the gaps, the places where maybe 2 or 3 circles overlap, but one crucial one is missing. And these gaps, they often feel like success or like passion, but they're incomplete. They're these states we can get stuck in.
Okay, tell me about these gaps. What happens when one is missing? You mentioned the passion versus pay thing.
Right. Let's start there. Imagine you have what you love, what you're good at, and what the world needs all lining up. That sounds amazing, right? You've got a real mission.
Yeah, like a dedicated volunteer or an activist, maybe?
Exactly. Someone pouring their heart into something important and they're skilled at it. But the 4th circle, what you can be paid for, is missing.
So passion and purpose, but no income.
Right. The source calls this the mission gap, and the warning is clear. It leads to burnout, poverty, maybe. It's just not sustainable long term. Purpose is powerful fuel, but you can't run on it forever if the bills are piling up.
Okay, that resonates. What about the opposite? Someone making good money but feeling empty.
That's a classic one. The source points to the vocation gap. Here you have what you're good at, what you can be paid for, and what the world needs.
So, competent, necessary, well-paid work. Like a skilled professional, maybe.
Yeah, the effective manager, the reliable specialist, they've got a solid vocation, they contribute, they earn, but the first circle, what you love, is missing.
They don't enjoy it.
Exactly. And the feeling described is emptiness, like you're productive, but for what? The source uses the phrase gilded cage syndrome.
Making money, doing useful things, but feeling like you're wasting your one life on something you don't care about. Ouch.
It's a common trap. Then there's the passion project scenario. What happens there?
Like a hobby you're amazing at.
Kind of. This is the passion gap. You've got what you love and what you're good at. Maybe you even get paid a bit for it sometimes.
Okay.
But the third circle, what the world needs, isn't really there or doesn't connect to a bigger purpose.
So it feels good, maybe pays a little, but lacks, meaning impact.
Yeah. The source suggests this can feel delightful, sure, but ultimately a bit useless or even hedonistic. You might be an incredible artist or musician playing only for yourself, or a brilliant gamer. It's enjoyable, skillful, maybe even earns pocket money, but without that contribution piece, it lacks deep, lasting satisfaction.
Fun, but maybe not fulfilling in the long run.
Interesting. Is there a fourth gap?
There is, though maybe less talked about. Let's call it the dilemma gap. This is where you love it, the world needs it, and you could potentially get paid for it, but you're just not good at it. Your skills aren't there.
So, tons of enthusiasm and good intentions, but maybe poor execution.
Exactly. You might feel excited, maybe even self-satisfied because you're pursuing something important, but if the competence isn't there, the source suggests it often leads to frustration, failure, and maybe even doing more harm than good if the world needs part is critical.
Wow. Okay, so seeing the gaps makes the goal clearer. It's not just about finding one thing.
Not at all. It's about actively trying to integrate all four. The source isn't saying it's easy, but it's encouraging you, the listener, to use these four areas like a compass, to constantly check in. Where am I strong? Where are the gaps? How can I nudge things closer to that central intersection?
Right. Through your career, maybe through side projects, community work, finding your unique way to bring them all together.
And that balance, that integration, that's what we supposedly see lived out by the Okinawans. Which brings us to the next part. Okay, this is where it gets really concrete, right?
Yeah.
We're shifting from the abstract model, the four circles, to the actual tangible stuff, the day-to-day reality observed in these Okinawan communities with all the centenarians.
Exactly. What are the specific habits that seem to underpin this long, healthy, purposeful life?
Because the source argues, pretty strongly, I think, that you can't really sustain Ikigai long-term without the right physical and social sort of infrastructure.
That's right. And the researchers identified, broadly, 4 key areas, 4 categories of habits. And what's striking is how simple, how intentional they seem. Often quite different from our modern Western approaches.
Okay, lay them out for us. Habit number 1.
Habit number 1 is about diet. But maybe not in the way you'd first think. Yes, they eat a lot of fresh, plant-based foods. The Okinawan purple sweet potato gets mentioned a lot, apparently packed with antioxidants, low glycemic index, credited with helping keep rates of certain diseases low historically.
Right, the food itself matters.
It does, but the source puts even more emphasis on how much they eat. Moderation is absolutely key. They practice something called hara-hachibu.
Ah, yes, I've heard of this. Stop eating when you're 80% full.
Exactly. Sounds simple, doesn't it?
Deceptively simple. In a world of massive portions and clean-your-plate mentality, that takes serious awareness and discipline.
It really does. It's described as intentional self-restraint, but built into the culture. A lifelong habit, not a short-term diet. The science behind it, as the source explains, is that delay between your stomach being physically full and your brain actually registering that signal. Takes about 20 minutes, apparently.
So by the time you feel full?
You're probably already overfull. 100%, maybe more.
Okay.
Hara-hachibu is about consciously stopping before that signal fully kicks in. Listening to your body, aiming for that 80% mark, and the effect. Consistently lower calorie intake. The Centenarians studied often consumed around 1,800 calories a day.
Which is quite low by Western standards.
It is. And the benefits are reduced strain on the digestive system, less inflammation, easier weight management over a lifetime. It's a powerful preventative habit against things like type 2 diabetes, heart disease.
Just by consistently eating a bit less.
Wow. It really flips the script on complex diets and calorie counting apps.
It's more about mindful practice than complex rules.
Oh.
And it's a cultural norm which makes it easier to sustain. Okay, so mindful eating, moderation. What's habit number 2? Movement.
Yes, consistent physical activity. But again, probably not what we picture as exercise.
Not hitting the gym for an hour.
Not typically, no. The emphasis is on gentle, consistent movement woven into the fabric of daily life.
Like what?
Things like gardening, very common, walking often to community gatherings or to visit friends, getting up and down frequently, doing household chores, just staying in motion.
So it's integrated, not segregated.
That's a great way to put it. We often see exercise as this separate thing we have to do, maybe to counteract sitting at a desk all day.
Right. Punishment for being sedentary.
The Okinawan approach described as different. Movement is just part of living, part of doing the things they need or want to do. Their daily routines naturally involve activity.
They don't need to schedule exercise because life is exercise, in a way.
Exactly. Tending a garden, walking to the market, participating in community events, it keeps them active without it feeling like a chore. And it's this constant, low-intensity movement that keeps the body flexible and functional. The source suggests this is far more sustainable over a century than intense bursts of activity that might lead to injury later on.
Makes sense. Keep moving, gently but constantly. Okay, diet, movement. What's next?
This one's huge. Habit number 3, strong social bonds.
Community.
Connection.
Absolutely fundamental. The research strongly emphasizes that this longevity isn't achieved in isolation. It relies heavily on close community ties, a real sense of belonging, and often quite formalized structures for it.
Formalized how? Like clubs?
More than clubs, they have something called moai.
Moai? What's that?
It translates roughly to meeting for a common purpose. But the sources make it clear these aren't just casual get-togethers. They're described as intentional, often lifelong commitments. Groups of people who provide social, financial, and emotional support to each other.
Financial support, how does that work? It's fascinating. Members often contribute a fixed amount of money regularly to a central pot. And that money is then distributed to members on a rotating basis, or perhaps used collectively, or saved for emergencies for a member.
So it's like a mini community insurance or savings club.
Exactly. It provides a practical safety net, but it's also this deep social and emotional anchor. You meet regularly, share what's going on, get advice, celebrate, mourn. You're truly in it together.
That sounds much deeper than just having friends. It's structured interdependence.
That's the key word, interdependence. Knowing you're part of this group, that people rely on you and you can rely on them. That reinforces your purpose, your relevance.
It fights isolation.
Directly. And we know, especially from Western studies, the source mentions, that isolation is a massive risk factor for poor health and earlier death.
So the moai is like social infrastructure for Ikigai. It gives you a reason and a network to keep going.
Beautifully put. Longevity isn't just physiology, it's sociology too.
Okay, diet, movement, social bonds. Here's one more.
The fourth pillar underpinning it all really is the mindset. Habit 4, a positive, resilient mindset.
The psychological piece.
Deeply tied back to the Ikigai philosophy itself. The Centenarians studied weren't just described as, passively happy. They're portrayed as actively optimistic, resilient when things get tough, because life always throws curveballs, right?
Always.
And critically, they stay purposefully engaged. They don't just drift. They have that reason to get up, that Ikigai, which keeps them looking forward, keeps the mind active.
So it's about finding meaning even in the daily grind. Choosing to see purpose.
Yes. That active choice seems key. It reframes challenges. It makes them less vulnerable to the kind of chronic stress that plagues so many in modern life.
Their purpose acts like a buffer.
It seems so. It keeps the mind sharp, the spirit buoyant, and connecting back, it often keeps the body moving too. That mindset fuels the whole system.
That idea of staying purposefully engaged, it leads directly into something the source highlights that's, well, pretty countercultural for many of us in the West.
You mean the perspective on retirement?
Exactly. Yeah. The Okinawan approach seems to involve, well, not really retiring in the way we think of it.
That's a major point in the research. Apparently, there isn't even a direct word for retirement in the traditional Okinawan dialect that means stopping work completely. Many of the elders studied just kept going, with hobbies, community roles, maybe part-time work they enjoyed, well into their 90s, even 100s.
But isn't that exhausting? We're sort of conditioned to see retirement as the reward, the finish line. You work hard so you can finally stop.
Right, we see it as earned rest. But the perspective here is different. If your work, whatever that activity is deeply connected to your Ikigai.
If it hits those 4 circles.
Exactly. Then why would you want to stop? Stopping would mean giving up your purpose, your reason for being.
So the work isn't seen as a burden to escape, but as a meaningful activity to continue.
That seems to be the core idea. The source argues that stopping meaningful activity can actually be detrimental. It can lead to a faster decline in health and purpose. When people feel they're no longer needed, no longer contributing, that's when problems often start. The goal isn't decades of leisure, it's continued engagement.
Okay, but how do they sustain that engagement without burning out if you're doing something for 70, 80 years?
That's where another key concept comes in, something the source links heavily to living your Ikigai day to day. It's the psychological state of flow.
Ah, flow. Mihali's concept, right?
The very same, that feeling of being completely absorbed in what you're doing.
Yeah, time disappears, you're focused, energized, almost effortless action, even if it's challenging.
Precisely, like the craftsman lost in their work, the musician in the music, the gardener tending their plants.
And the source says achieving flow is key to sustained engagement.
It seems so, because flow isn't passive, it's active engagement. And importantly, it's intrinsically rewarding. You do the activity for the sake of the activity itself. And the way to achieve flow, according to the research explained in the source, is finding that perfect balance between the challenge of the task and your own skill level.
Right. Too hard, and you get anxious, stressed.
Overwhelmed, yeah.
Too easy, and you get bored, disengaged.
Exactly. Flow happens in that channel right between boredom and anxiety, where the task stretches you, demands your focus and creativity, but doesn't break you.
So seeking out activities that induce flow naturally keeps you learning, growing, engaged. Keeps the brain plastic, maybe.
That's the implication. It prevents stagnation, and that feeling of deep absorption is itself a source of profound satisfaction, which fuels the desire to continue.
Okay, so flow helps sustain the activity. How does mindfulness fit in?
Flow and mindfulness are deeply connected in the source material. Achieving flow requires intense presence, focus on the now. And many Okinawan daily practices described seem rooted in mindfulness principles, sometimes drawing from Zen Buddhist traditions.
Mindfulness as in paying attention on purpose.
Yes,
Yeah.
that intentional, non-judgmental awareness of the present moment. Whether you're preparing food, walking, talking with someone, really being there, instead of letting the mind race ahead with worries or drift back into regrets.
Which is what most of us do most of the time.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
But cultivating this presence, this mindfulness, allows you to find joy and meaning in the simple, everyday acts that make up life.
So it connects back to finding purpose even in routine tasks.
Exactly. It fosters gratitude for the small things. It builds resilience because you're anchored in the present reality, not lost in what-ifs.
It's like an antidote to the anxiety of modern life, maybe.
That's how the source seems to frame it. That capacity to be present, to find flow, to appreciate the simple acts, it builds this deep psychological strength. It makes the continuous engagement of Ikigai not just possible, but deeply rewarding over an entire lifetime.
All right, so we've got the Ikigai model, the 4 circles. We've got the Okinawan habits, diet, movement, community, mindset. And we've got the psychological states, flow, mindfulness, continuous engagement.
We've covered a lot of ground.
Now, let's bring it home. What can someone listening right now actually do with all this?
Yeah.
How do you start finding or cultivating your own Ikigai?
The source material doesn't just leave it at theory. It offers some really practical starting points. And it begins, perhaps unsurprisingly, with self-reflection, but structured reflection.
Not just daydreaming about your passions.
Right. It suggests a specific journaling exercise, really, designed to make you take a concrete inventory based on those 4 circles.
Okay, what does that involve?
It asks you to get specific. First, list maybe 10 things you've done recently, say, in the last year where you truly lost track of time, felt pure joy. That's digging into what you love.
Your love inventory. Got it.
Second, list the skills or abilities that other people genuinely ask for your help with. Things you might even dismiss, but others recognize as a strength in you. That's your good at inventory.
Okay, what others see as your talents?
Third, identify maybe 3 to 5 issues, could be local, could be global, that you actually care about. Problems you wish you could help solve. Your world needs inventory.
What genuinely matters to you beyond yourself?
And finally, list all the ways you currently make money, or realistically could make money. Then try to connect these back to the items on your other 3 lists. That's your paid-for inventory and the start of integration.
So it's forcing you to map things out, to see where the overlaps might already exist, even faintly, and where the big gaps are.
Exactly. It's not about finding one perfect job description that fits all 4 immediately. It's about seeing the ingredients you have to work with. The source is clear. Most of us operate mainly in 1 or 2 quadrants. This exercise is designed to reveal your potential convergence points.
And once you have this map, this inventory, what then? Do you make a radical life change?
Interestingly, no. The source strongly advises against massive, sudden upheavals. Quitting your job tomorrow to, I don't know, become a poet if you've never written a line, that's probably not the path.
So no grand gestures.
Not typically. It emphasizes small, sustainable changes. Finding Ikigai is presented as a gradual process of alignment, of calibration, built through consistency.
Okay, small steps, like what?
It's about consciously building elements of your potential Ikigai into your daily or weekly routines.
Integrating it into your current structure.
Precisely. So if your reflection suggests your Ikigai involves, say, mentoring young people, but your job is totally unrelated.
Maybe you volunteer an hour a week, or find ways to mentor junior colleagues at work.
Exactly. Small, concrete actions. If writing emerged as part of your love and good at, maybe you carve out 30 minutes every morning for focused writing before the day swallows you up.
If community is key, you actively schedule that regular meetup with your close friends, treating it like an important commitment, your own mini moai.
Yes. It's about actively weaving threads of your purpose into the existing fabric of your life, making space for it consistently. That's how you build the habit, build the connection, and foster that resilience we talked about.
It's less about finding the perfect destination immediately, and more about starting the journey with intentional steps.
That sums it up perfectly. Ikigai isn't portrayed as a static thing you find once. It's something you cultivate day by day through conscious choices and actions. It's about ensuring that each day, each week, contains moments that align with your deepest values and passions.
Okay, so as we kind of pull all these threads together, what are the big overarching takeaways from this whole exploration of Ikigai and the Okinawan lifestyle?
I think there are three main themes that really stand out from the source material.
Let's hear them.
First, the connection between longevity and happiness, or maybe purpose. The core message isn't just live longer, it's live better, live with meaning. The incredible longevity seen in Okinawa seems to be almost a side effect.
A byproduct of living a deeply engaged, purposeful life.
It really seems that way. They're not obsessing over lifespan. They're busy living lives filled with activity, connection, and meaning derived from their Ikigai. The length follows the quality.
Okay, quality leads to quantity, in a sense. What's the second theme?
Balance. This is crucial. The four-circle model hammers this home. A fulfilled life, according to this framework, requires finding a harmonious balance between your personal passions, what you love, your skills, what you're good at, your contribution, what the world needs, and your practical needs, what you can be paid for.
And if any one of those is missing or totally dominant,
fulfillment remains elusive. You get those gaps. We talked about the burnout, the emptiness, the feeling of uselessness. True Ikigai lies in the integration, the balance.
makes sense. And the third takeaway?
I'd say simplicity and intentionality. The Okinawan example is such a powerful counter-narrative to our often complex, frantic, achievement-obsessed modern lives.
Right. It suggests fulfillment doesn't necessarily come from more money, more possessions, more status.
Exactly. It highlights the power of simple, consistent, intentional habits. Eating mindfully, that 80% rule, moving naturally throughout the day, prioritizing real, structured community connection, finding flow in everyday tasks.
It's about the way you live daily, not just the big goals you achieve.
Precisely. The simple, deliberate actions are the foundation for a long, purposeful life. Hashtag Head Outro.
Okay, so wrapping up. If we had to distill the core message from this deep dive into Ikigai,
I think it's that a life built consciously at that intersection, where your passion, skills, contribution, and needs meet and supported by simple habits of health and strong community ties, that's the path to deep fulfillment and, yes, potentially a longer life, too.
a life of purpose, community, and balance.
And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Thinking about our own culture.
That's
Well, how much of the stress, the anxiety, the burnout that feels so common today might stem directly from living outside that intersection? You know, being stuck in that vocation gap, good job, pays well, maybe even important, but completely disconnected from what we genuinely love or find meaningful. Or the mission gap, pouring heart and soul into something vital but unable to sustain it.
That lack of integration might be costing us more than we realize. It's a really provocative thought.
It is.
And building on that, and especially on that Okinawan idea of continuous engagement, of not really retiring from purpose,
Yeah.
we wanted to leave you, our listeners, with something to really chew on.
Okay.
If the secret to a long, happy, engaged life involves finding activities so meaningful you'd want to keep doing them, not stop, ask yourself this. What activities are you involved in right now, maybe in your job, your hobbies, your community work, that you genuinely love and find so purposeful you could imagine wanting to continue doing them in some form well into your 90s?
That's a powerful question. What endures?
What truly aligns with your Ikigai? Find that. Nurture it with those simple, intentional habits, build your community, and see where it takes you. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.